Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Kaiju Curry House. I am your host, Joe, and tonight I am joined by co-host Paul. Paul? Hey, there he is.
Hey,
All right. Now, you guys may have noticed that our other regular co-host, Paul's here. Alex, even. Alex has not been around. He is on holiday. And when that scoundrel comes back, we're going to have to ask him what he's been up to. But in any case, welcome to the fabulous episode 76. And we are going to be talking about some great new kaiju merch that has been dropping lately. And we're going to go back to the past and we're going to bring out an old format for you. We're going to go through some little known movies or some movies that you guys might not have stumbled across yet. And we're going to go over them for you and get you interested. So without further ado, Paul, what have kaiju been up to?
thanks for asking, Joe. I received a very late Father's Day present.
That is very late.
I know it's very late. It's something my son chose, but it was out of stock at the time. And then I guess they didn't cancel it and it just arrived all of a sudden. It's a little Funko, like Funko Pop, but it's a key ring.
Oh, right. Yeah,
So,
I knew that they've been branching out.
yeah, so it's still the Funko design and it's of Godzilla, but it's like that big.
No, that's
It's
cool.
It's very cool. It's surprisingly detailed for such a small product.
I'd
Obviously,
be tempted to use that as like a Christmas ornament or something, you know?
well, that's it. Because if that goes in my pocket, it's probably just going to dig in.
It's going to die.
It's going to stick out in my pocket, or I'm gonna. Yeah, it's not great as a key ring for what I would use it for, because it's not just going to go in the pocket. But if I wanted to put a key that I like a garage key, or a certain key on its own that I could hang up in the house, or as you say, as an ornament maybe, then that is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no, normally you get a toy or something, and on the back it shows you what else you can get. There's nothing. So I'd like to think you can get a Kong one and a Godzilla one, and they'd be pretty cool together. But I don't know. But no, it's always nice to receive a present.
It's a mystery.
Yeah. Aside from that, I watched Suicide Squad.
You did?
The new Suicide Squad, and it's really good. Great film.
Really?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Much better than the first one.
Yeah, the first one kind of left me hanging there.
Yeah,
I watched the trailers, and I like that shark dude. I thought he was hilarious.
Oh yeah, Shark Dude's great.
Sly, Sylvester Stallone voices him. It's amazing. Yeah. He's not even like trying to hide his voice. It's great.
No, you can tell who it is straight away. And it does have a kaiju in it.
Star of the Conqueror. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I did see in the trailer they mentioned.
Yeah, they even say the word kaiju.
Yeah, they go,
we're becoming mainstream, folks.
I know. It's awesome, isn't it? I think so it's not a kaiju film, obviously, but yes, there is, inarguably, there is a kaiju in it, because they actually say in the film it's a kaiju. Which
Paul,
is
I feel like
giant starfish.
I feel like I gotta ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you like kaiju before they were cool?
I didn't know they were kaiju. I love monster films.
Yeah,
I grew up watching them.
I feel like that's just something you got to ask, because like they're in comic book movies now. I feel like we really are. I mean, mainstream.
That's it.
Golly jeepers.
Do they say things like, "Oh, were you into Marvel before they were cool"? Is that a thing as well? I take it.
Oh, I don't know. I was just joking. I'm the guy that's like geeking about magic and Dungeons and Dragons and my monster movies. Like, I am quite happy and content with where I am on the popularity scale. I do not need anybody else.
So. I imagine when Stranger Things came out, though, you're like, "Oh, wow, yeah, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Everyone's raving about this show."
I know. Oh, I remember the Stranger Things. I watched one episode, and it's kind of like, like Joey from Friends, like where he tries the chocolate cake and he's like, oh, and then like binged that night. Like that night, I was away on work. Like I was staying in a hotel. Yeah, and it was like 9 p.m. when I finished that first episode, because I was just like alone, and then oh dear,
wow,
and then a while later, didn't regret it. Woke up,
okay,
put in the work, and then it was just like went home and crashed. But yeah, it was Stranger Things when that first dropped. That was great because nobody knew. Everybody was just totally mystified. And you hadn't expected that kind of quality from Netflix. Like we weren't
That's
expecting
true.
that
That
at
was one of
all.
their first like premium things, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, they just went for it and nobody knew where it was coming. It just came out of nowhere. It was awesome, or at least it felt like it came out of nowhere. I was surprised when I saw it. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I
it's good
missed
stuff.
it when it first released. I was busy studying, I remember, and everyone kept raving about it.
Yeah,
And I was
it's
like,
got some
oh,
cool, it's got some groovy critters in it too.
yeah. I mean, I did end up watching it, like 3 or 4 months later, and loved it. But yeah, at the time, everyone's talking about it. I was like, oh, no, I've got schoolwork to do.
That's school and that
Anyway,
work.
final thing, I read a graphic novel, Tales from the Drift. So it's just a continuation of the Pacific Rim films,
Hmm.
although this is a prequel. But so basically, there's a couple, married couple, who drift together, fight together, and I think they're knocked unconscious or something. They're battling a kaiju, and they go deep into the drift, and so you're seeing how they met, how they fell in love, their past battles. So it's, to be honest, it's I didn't like the characters that much, which kind of made the whole thing a bit pointless. But by the end, it did pull it together, and I was like, actually, no, they wrapped it up well. But yeah, I don't know. If you like Pacific Rim, it's worth a read. If you don't, then I can't really recommend it. But it was nice to have a read of something.
There's surprisingly few good kaiju comics out there. I mean, like there are lots of good kaiju stories, but like a comic where it all comes together, the art, the story, the
Yeah.
characters, it's hard to find that. And I
Well, I mean,
feel
that's
like,
it. Like, I mean, yeah, the characters came together at the end. The art was, the art was good. It's not, it wasn't bad anyway, but it wasn't, it didn't elevate in any way to make it stand out.
mhm.
I think the problem was it was actually meant to be a ongoing series, and it got reduced to about 4 episodes for 4 issues. Sorry, so obviously it didn't hit with the audience, and they just quickly wrapped it up and then did it as a quick, graphic novel. But hey ho, something to read.
Yeah.
Joe, how about you tell me, what have Kaiju been up to?
So I have been doing Nerdy Joe things. Paul, like we were talking about earlier, I have gotten out my old VHS tapes and I have been busy converting old VHS tapes to a digital format. And I'm just so nerdy that I've been like I've been digitizing old animal documentaries. I'm not even getting like Hollywood movies out or anything, but I will redeem myself to some of the true cinema geeks out there. I have some old Moonbeam Entertainment films, and I have been converting those films like Prehysteria, Dragon's World, stuff like that, and I'm loving it. I've got them kind of at my feet over here, and that kind of led to the format that we're going to have tonight. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but other than that, I have been watching the summer reveals for X Plus. Thank goodness there isn't too much that they've released that I need in my life. Looking behind me, I've got so much room left, but I am still holding out for the Ray Harryhausen Dragon. And however hard you try, folks, I'm going to hold firm on that. It's Ray Harryhausen Dragon or bust. But yeah, that's kind of more or less what I've been up to. It's kept me busy, those things.
Well,
Um,
I mean, transferring to DVD, you actually have to play the tape, don't you?
yeah, you do.
Yeah, so you are watching the whole thing, and if you've got a video, you're watching a lot of
You
things.
you are really. Hmm, I might let like a video go while I'm working, and then return to it later to see that it has ended and the thing is recorded onto my computer,
Okay,
and then I just save it as a file and go back and I might edit them later on. But I will edit them later on. I can't be bothered with it right now. I just want them digitized. So yeah,
okay.
it's
And
been
what
fun.
what models released at this wonderful, announced, I should say, at the Wonderfest?
Okay, so it's the summer festival, so it's a whole bunch of really neat things. So Star Ace has done a few things, X Plus has done a few things. So what we have basically are the Kong versus Godzilla figures that are being teased. 30 centimeter gigantic, I don't know, but I'm starting to think that they're gigantic, some of the bigger ones. And then there's some defo reels. I haven't really seen much in the 30 centimeter range from X Plus itself. So in terms of defo reels, we've definitely got a Kong with an axe. Whether these are Rick exclusives or if they're standards, I can't tell you. But we've definitely got a Kong with an axe. We've got a Godzilla, and we've got a Singular Point Godzilla Ultima in Defo Reels coming out. So that's fun stuff. And then, like I said, I'm not sure if they're 30 centimeter or if they're gigantic. I would actually kind of prefer it if they were 30 centimeter, but I'm thinking that they're going to be gigantic because the Godzilla sculpt is very similar to the Godzilla sculpt that they've used in recent gigantics of the American legendary Godzilla. Now, in terms of Star Ace stuff, there have been a few little Harryhausen things that have drifted in, some Defo Reels, Kali, like that was teased a little while ago. We've seen a few more pictures of that. But what I'm really excited about is they released some figures of animals, and they've gone with some really fantastic sculpts. There's a woolly mammoth, and it's gorgeous, as you'd expect. They've got a concavenator, which is a theropod dinosaur, and it's great. It's feathered. It's got a incredibly dynamic pose. It's so beautiful, and the paint application is fantastic too. It's brightly colored. And then, kind of coming out of left field, but still glorious, is a coelacanth, which is a lobe-finned fish thought to have been extinct, but was rediscovered in 1938. It was the Lazarus taxon, which kind of all others are judged by. But they're really beautiful figs, and I wasn't expecting that out of Star Ace. But now that they've done it, I'm potentially more excited about that line than any kaiju that could be coming out, because I really love that direction, because that they're quality figs. They're going to look great. There's going to be a great presentation with them. And they've done their research. They've picked really good artists for the sculpts. So yeah, that's kind of what's been going on with those releases. And then I think you mentioned earlier that there have been a few more Bandai vinyls that have been released.
Yeah, I know there was definitely Gorosaurus was released, or is coming soon, and they were quite cheap, weren't they? Or at least they're released in the States, and it was like $10 or $15. I was thinking, that seems very affordable.
Yeah, well, everybody was going nuts for that Gorosaurus, because how often do you see Gorosaurus stuff?
That's it.
That's the thing, yeah. The last time I think that anybody in the States got anything Gorosaurus was the Diamond X Plus release of that figure, and it's just, how often do you see? But good old Gorosaurus, King Kong Escapes, fantastic.
Yeah, I hope we get stuff like that, because I mean that's a perfect toy. Like if that came out at 10 quid, I'd be like, yeah, I'll get my kid that.
Well,
we can share it.
Since you have the face hugger in your background, I'll let you in on this other little thing that I saw recently. Okay. I saw that there was going to be a Nerf release of the rifle from the film Aliens.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is not colored the same way.
Oh,
but it's kind of got like I don't know. It's got kind of its own coloring, because it can't look like an actual gun. You have to understand this, Paul.
Yeah,
you could paint it, but they can't just sell it having it looking like an actual gun, because the one in the film was meant to look like an actual gun. But you can get a Nerf gun of that Aliens. I think it was the M1 grenade or whatever. It's the assault rifle. But anyways.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's like it's going to shoot like Nerf darts, and I saw that today. It's getting released for the 35th anniversary, and I was just like,
"That's very cool.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a nice nod. Yeah, okay. But there's just been like a little dribbling of great merch coming out lately. For
I'll keep my eye on that, and
fans of sci-fi.
The Defo Reels that are coming out, because I do like them. I'm surprised there's no Jet Jaguar from Singular Point, because he seemed perfect.
Well, this is the thing. So it said "and more" at the bottom of it. Yeah. So.
Because I'm imagining, I've got it in my head, there's going to be the standard one where it's just him, and then the Rick where he's got that the Anguirus spike on the staff.
We haven't seen any pictures of the actual table at the show yet, so there could be great stuff there.
I'll keep my eyes peeled.
There we go. We both will.
Yeah.
Because I want to see a dragon.
I know you do.
Where's my dragon? That's what I need right now.
It's coming.
You know what else is coming? By golly, I'm telling you what, COVID has just delayed so many shipments. Do you remember when we ordered some of these figures a year ago?
I remember how long ago since I ordered something.
Yeah, it's taken forever. But hey ho, we're getting back up to speed. People are out in the sun. and it's safer. And while it's still a bit scary, we're feeling better about it, so can't complain.
Yeah, people are getting double jabbed. She's like, we're moving on.
There we go. I get my double jab tomorrow.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
I did not feel great after the first one. So
okay, I didn't. I felt fine after the first, not after the second. So
I was really dumb. I got my jab and then I went jogging, and then I came back. I was like, oh, I'm tired now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how that went. Anyways, folks, we have done it again. We have rambled on a bit, and tonight's format, we are going to take a film apiece and we're going to tell you why you should watch it. So, Paul, how about you start? What have you got?
Right. Okay. So, I have got a film that comes under two names, and I mentioned it, I believe, on just last week's episode. It's called Harbinger Down, or at least it is in the world, apart from the UK, where in the UK it's known as Inanimate. I don't know why it's two different names, but hey, there you go. So I kind of gave a little waffle about what was happening last time. I think I'll try and tell you properly what the story is this time and give you some facts, because I did look into it a bit more and found some pretty cool things out about it, actually, which made me wanted to raise it again. So it starts off in 1982, just basically because there's a Soviet...
That's a long time ago, Paul.
Yeah, so there's a Soviet moon lander, and it's crashing back into Earth, into the Bering Sea. And that's basically the opening. We then fast forward to 2015, where we've got some graduate students who are joining their professor to go on a tour, would you believe, to study the effects of global warming on whales. And it just so happens that one of the students' grandfather has a ship. He's got a fishing trawler where he goes to get crabs, I believe it is. So, it's a nice little family reunion. And so it's a fair sized boat, obviously, because you've got all the crew and now these students and teacher all going on. The plan is
and the crabs.
And the crabs, yes. So they've got, it's big enough to have a separate engine room, and a hull for storing all the crabs and stuff. So it's a decent sized ship. Anyway, so they're catching crabs one night, as they do, and the granddaughter of the captain, she's called Sadie, she wakes up and her little monitor's beeping because they're tracking the whales. And so she's like, oh, what's going on? I'll get some footage and some recordings, seeing what's happening. And she sees a red flashing light under the ice. Like, oh, let's have a look at that. So rather than getting the crabs, she's like, go on, Granddad, could you fish out this flashing light and we'll have a nose, see what it is. And would you believe it's this Russian moonlander from 30, 40 years ago. It's like, oh, okay, we'll claim that, and seeing as we're students, maybe we can, get some
tuition paid for, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, let's say we'll get something out of it. So they store it away, and there's a bit of tension between the student who's found it, and her granddad saying, she's found it, and the professor who's like, well, actually, this could be my discovery. You're just a student, and I can make life hard for you. So that's a little bit of the tension that's going on the ship there. But anyway, basically the crew are all on the granddaughter's side. They don't like this professor because he seems a bit of a dick. He's trying to claim the credit. So they distract him. She goes down to the little moon lander and is thawing it out, and the astronaut's still in there, but she takes off his helmet and he's actually perfectly preserved, which you'd assume is the ice, but it turns out the person's infected with these things called tardigrades. Tardigrades, yeah, you know of them.
Watch the bears.
Yeah, apparently they're like really hard to kill.
They are very hard to kill. Yeah. They're amazing.
And so I think the Russians were basically taking them into space, experimenting with them to try and make, super soldiers or whatever, something like that. And it just so happened that while they're in space experimenting, there was some cosmic radiation that mutated them, and they inhabited the astronaut's body. So, it's all thought out. She's got the sample, goes away. The professor decides to sneak out later on and is like, oh, I'm going to go maybe get a sample. I'm going to do this. And when he gets there, the body's gone. You're like, oh.
Plot thickens.
And so he's now, you've stolen the body. You're trying to take this away from me. It's like, no, I didn't drag a man's body, all the way up and hide it somewhere on the ship. And so, it gets a little bit fighty. They're arguing. And suddenly the doctor, he starts to get a little bit hot. You're like, okay, he's arguing, but he runs outside and he starts stripping off his clothes. No, oh, okay, that's not good. So
that's not unheard of with a college professor and graduate students, but this is a bit of a strange case.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that when Sadie was investigating, she was wearing gloves. She was quite, she was like, I'm going to get some video footage, get a sample, go away. He was just handling things willy-nilly. So he's not a very good professor.
He's not a good professor.
He's not a good professor.
That's contaminating the sample.
Yeah,
no.
so he got
good.
Contaminated himself. So he's stripping off. And so the others are like, well, he's getting a bit nuts. Let's bring him inside, because it's freezing cold out there. They're not on a tropical island. They're in the ice. So they drag him down, pin him on the table, and these stalks just come out of his back. Think the thing, things just growing out of him, and it starts spraying like this gooey liquid just all over the place. And it does go into someone's mouth, which is
delicious,
which is very gross. And one of the other crewmates sees that, and he's just like quickly wipes it off and is, to say, no, I didn't do anything. Nothing happened there. And so they're now like, oh, crap, are we infected? Aren't we infected? Who knows? But the bloke who gets it, in his mouth certainly starts to get similar things. Yeah, he's starting to get a bit sweaty. He's starting to act a little bit strange. And so there's this Russian woman on part of the crew, and she locks him into a cage on the deck, covers him in petrol, or whatever they've got, and shoots him with a flare gun.
Dramatic.
Yeah, again, very much like the thing, because he starts to go all like shaky and stuff starts to come out of him as well. So she's just like, yeah, I'm getting rid of you. And now they're like, what do we do? We're stuck on a ship. We're potentially all infected with this organism. What can we do? And to be honest, there's not much you can do, really, is there? So they just kind of like go into groups and try and think of a plan that they can what they can do to get out there. And it turns out that the Russian lady, she is actually part of some secret super duper Russian thing who's been waiting for this the whole time. It turns out that all of all the trawlers out there all have a Russian spy on, and she just happened to be the one that was on the boat that picked it up. And so she has now planted explosives all over the ship, and she's got a submarine coming to pick her up. Well, that's convenient, isn't it? So
it seems like a lot of effort here. I mean, like,
yeah,
you could have had me up until this point.
I don't feel like they needed this, but I guess they thought maybe an alien creature on board isn't enough. So let's up the stakes.
It's not even alien. It's not even alien. Tardigrades are from Earth. That's why it's so cool.
Well, they were from Earth, but they went up into space and got, mutated into
cosmic radiation. Now they're the Fantastic Four tardigrades. Yeah.
Yes, exactly that. So they're smarter, stronger. They're taking bodies, and anyway, they basically distract because they see the creature. Some tentacles that come out out of a pipe. They distract the Russian, and sure enough, the organism comes out, kills her, and they all manage to get out. And they're now trying to disarm the bombs so they don't get blown up, and also kill a creature. So they've got a fair bit going on. I think they're going to, because there's only about 4 or 5 people left, so they have to break up into teams to try and search the ship. But they've also
of course you have to split up
because you have to split up,
yeah, you have.
But you've also got this alien that's just hiding in the dark, ready to come out, grab you, and infect you. And well,
I mean, like these are graduate students, right? Aren't they used to this?
I don't think this normally happens. I could be wrong. But I mean, there's also the crew. I'm trying to think who's actually left at the end of it. But there's not many.
I mean, you're spoiling it pretty well, Paul. But I mean, like, by all means, give us the names.
yeah. I can't actually remember the name. I just remember it was Sadie and the granddad, whose name is Graf, and who's played by Lance Henriksen of Aliens.
Oh, wow.
So great, absolutely great actor in yet another Alien type film.
He's been typecast.
He really has. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, long story short, a few more people die. The alien gets them. They manage to find all the bombs. Great. But there's, I think at the end, there's like, should I say spoilers? At the end left,
there's a super creature.
There's just Graf and Sadie left at the end, I believe it was, and effectively she's now getting all the explosives together, and she's going to try and blow up the ship so the life form can't get anywhere. So the granddad,
tardigrades can live in water, you know.
Okay, well,
they're really good at it.
I guess they didn't think that
like this wasn't well researched. No.
But Graf basically kind of sacrificed himself so his granddaughter can get away. She gets up, calls out for help on the radio, puts it at full speed so it is going to ram like an iceberg. She jumps off onto one floating around and blows it all up. So it's a nice big explosive ending.
Does she live?
Well, she's just kind of freezing on this block of ice with the radio, just like waiting for someone to come pick her up. I think you do hear like a helicopter in the distance, so I'm assuming it does get to her in time, and hopefully she's not infected and won't spread it. But I mean, who knows? So that's the film. There are, I probably should say that there's some gruesome deaths in there with the creature who's constantly mutating throughout the film as it infects different hosts. It's very much like The Thing, where it can just be like a human body, or it can be an absolutely massive beast. But it does change throughout the film. And there's lots of tentacles as well. Yeah, so if you like tentacles, this is the film for you. But the interesting thing is, or one of the many interesting things, is that this was a Kickstarter film.
Oh, wow.
So this was fully funded just by pledges of, people like us who wanted to see this type of film.
That's really cool.
And it came about because the company, so sorry, I should say it's written and directed by Alec Gillis, who works for or runs ADI, which is a
wonderful bloke.
Yeah, absolutely lovely bloke who does practical effects. So ADI, it does practical effects. And this movie is nothing but practical effects.
Whoa, now I'm sold. I have to watch it now.
Okay, so his team was hired to do The Thing remake, or the Thing prequel back in 2011.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So they did the work on it. And then the film, as you know, when it was released, actually replaced all of their practical effects with CGI.
Not all of them, but a lot of them.
A lot of them, yeah. And so ADI basically said, well, do you know what? We had a vision of, of doing The Thing, but with practical effects. And so they turned to Kickstarter and said, we're going to make our own version.
Wow.
And so while I know when I originally said it, it seems very familiar because it's like The Thing. This is why it's like The Thing. They wanted to make The Thing and kind of had
That's
that
a whole
almost
different
taken
twist. You
away.
should have led with that,
I
Paul. You should have led with this story because now that's fascinating. Just
It
like, oh,
really is, isn't it?
you are going to let us do our version?
We'll
Tell you
do
what,
our own. Yeah. So this
we'll make
film,
our own version.
yeah. So this film I've told it's been practically, entirely practical special effects. So animatronics, prosthetic makeup, stop motion, miniatures. It's everything that you love, Joe, is in here.
How do I watch it? Where can I find it?
I say I watched it on my TV on an app called Rakuten. It was
Okay,
free
I was
to.
going to say, thanks, Paul. You watched it on your TV.
Yeah, maybe I should have left it. It's on the app Rakuten. I think it's also on Amazon Prime.
Sweet.
So
Got that
it's,
one.
I mean, but Rakuten is free. It's a free app and it's a free film. You just have to watch some adverts. I mean, that's
Okay. Well, fair enough.
all. But yeah,
It's like watching it on regular television then.
yeah. So we've got Lance Henriksen from Aliens, and we've got basically the practical effects team who love The Thing, and you've put the two together. And although I did say, as I said before, it's not better than Aliens or Alien or The Thing, but if you like that type of film, then it's definitely worth watching.
It'll scratch that itch. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
It's not often that something like that comes along. So
no, that's it. And there's lots of nods to like The Thing in it, like that chess computer that they play in The Thing.
The one that Kurt Russell pours his booze on.
Yeah, like that's in this, and the birds that you see in like the Alien films where they tap the water, go back and forth. Just things like, and there's some lines in there that are just taken also from the film. So it's clear.
It's a love note written to it.
Yeah, it really is. And so while it's not going to be as good as The Thing, they certainly put a lot of love into it, and I can see now why it's so much like The Thing. If I knew that for going into it, I think I would have appreciated it a lot more. It just felt like, oh, this is an awful lot like The Thing. Yeah,
fantastic.
It is. So yeah, that is Harbinger Down, but in the UK it's known as Inanimate. It's definitely worth checking out. It's not a lot. It was just under an hour and a half, I think, so it's not even a long film.
That's awesome.
And
I will definitely check this out.
And check that out. So I'll tell you what, let's take a break, Joe. And then we can come back and you can tell us all about your film of choice.
Sweet.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Kaiju Curry House. It's episode 76. It's myself and Joe, and we're talking about some films that we love. So I've just talked all about Harbinger Down. Joe, what are you going to tell us about?
Well, obviously, Paul, you know me. I had to pick a CGI-filled horror bonanza, that's just over the top. But I thought in this case, since I do that so often, I would pick a really lovely old school movie that is high on charm and low on CGI. So I figured it'd be a bit different for you tonight, folks.
Oh, yes.
So my film, I originally encountered it as a trailer in my youth, and there was basically a VHS or just a collection of old dinosaur and monster movie trailers, and it was called The Fantastic Dinosaurs of the Movies. And this was a thing for lots of people who are very nostalgic about this VHS tape, which was like an hour of just trailers. I remember the original time I watched it too. I was like, wow, there's a lot of trailers on this movie. When are they going to get the actual movie? And then it didn't dawn on me until later. It's like, oh, that's all that this movie is. It's so terrible. But yet you come back to it and you watch it. So yeah, if you want to watch this, I think it's on Amazon Prime in the UK under just like dinosaurs or dinosaurs in the movies. You will be able to see from the cover that's on it. But Fantastic Dinosaurs in the Movies, if you Google that, you'll definitely find it on YouTube. You'll probably find references to it everywhere. But I originally encountered the film I'm going to talk about on this old VHS tape. And I didn't know where to get it. I'd never heard of it before, but it just seemed really interesting because it was right up my street. And it was this actual VHS that I'm going to show you if you're watching along on YouTube. It is Journey to the Beginning of Time. hot dog. I still have the original one. And it was by Good Times Family Theater that it was released under, but it's directed by a fella named Carl Zeman. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's a Czech name, and I'm American, so I'm already going to be notoriously bad at pronouncing things. But anyway, he was fantastic when it came to fantasy cinema and just weaving a good yarn. And in this case, it's about four boys in New York City. And what they want to do is they want to go to the Museum of Natural History and look at animals and dinosaur skeletons and stuff, which is a perfectly normal thing. And they walk along and then they go through the museum. They see their stuff and they think, you know what? Let's go to Central Park. It's a beautiful day. We'll rent a boat and we'll just go rowing around on the lake that's in the middle of Central Park. Fun times. So they do this. And along the way of rowing around, just exploring the lake, they come across this cave with strange paintings on it. Presumably, these are meant to be like Native American paintings, pictographs, if you will. So they go into this cave because why not? They've got a boat. It's on the lake. It's big enough. And then they come out the other side and they think it's the other side of the lake. But the farther down they go, like the more ice there seems to be and it's colder. Now, at this point, you as the viewer kind of start to get the gag that's going along, especially since you've seen the cover, you know, like you've read the back or you've read the story. But these kids go through this cave and out the other end, there's this river. And the farther upstream they go, upstream, downstream, I guess, can't honestly tell you, they go along this river, the farther back in time they get. And it's really cool because they're seeing all of these animals. They're going through, you know, periods in history. They're learning to forage. They're like doing the basic like camping bit. It's kind of like being like in the Boy Scouts and just like having like camping with your friends. And it's just like in the Ice Age or the Mesozoic. It's just really neat because it's fun. A lot of the stuff that they encounter is pretty mellow. There aren't any like scary bits. There's hardly a time where someone's life is really in danger here. But at the time, it was meant to be very scientifically accurate. The Museum of Natural History in New York actually had a big hand in bringing about the science in this film.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, but if we look at the year that it was made, it was ancient. So it's from back in the days, but there's only like puppets, stop motion animation, and in some cases it's actually animated.
That's cool. I like the sound
But
of
it's
that.
yeah. Some of the animals are animated, but they're animated so well that I dare say like Don Bluth or whoever would probably, you know, give it kind of like an ovation, like, well done, boys. Like you really snuck that in there. But the animation, it's done in such a way that it like complements the CGI. Or like what they did is they took like footage of a lion on the African savannah and then they modified it and they made it into saber-toothed tiger. But it's just really subtle animation that they've thrown in there to like complement it so that it's just that bit extra to where you think it's a different species. But it's really lovely. Like the animation, it falls perfectly in line with like the resolution of the film, what it's meant to be. And it's a great yarn. Like I showed this to my little girl, Charlotte, and Charlotte loves it because she'll ask for it by name, but she doesn't refer to it as during the beginning of time. She calls it, "Can we watch the Camping Boys movie?" Which I thought was really cute. I think it's great. But it's just one of those like movies that you can just watch. Like I'm sure we all have bored movies, you know, like when you're bored, you can't think of what to watch. And there's just like favorites that you fall back on. Journey to the Beginning of Time is one of mine. Now, this has been a notoriously hard film to find. And the English release had a few glitches with it. The dub track didn't follow the lips of the actors through some parts of the movie. However, there's been a new release just recently, really, by Second Run, and they have re-released it as a 4K restoration on Blu-ray. And it is incredible. It is everything as a fan of the original that I could want. They restored all the film. It looks gorgeous. You can even see the wires in some cases. The dub track, all the issues have been fixed. You can listen to it in its original language, or you can listen to it in the dub. And then another great thing which they've done is they've just, like I said, they've cleaned it up so much, but it's on Blu-ray, and they put a special features bit on it, and the aspect ratios are all fixed. We've got 1080p. It's so good. But for an old film, you don't often see that treatment, especially one as niche as this one. But like I said, if you want to just get like a great film for kids, I'd say that, like 4 years old up to like maybe 10, that's like peak age for this. If you watch it with them, they'll probably love it. Now, if they've seen Jurassic Park, they're going to be like, what are you showing me? But if you watch it with them and they haven't necessarily like seen that kind of stuff yet, they're really going to sit down and love it, because everything there is there. Like all the practical effects that they did for it. In one scene, there is a Stegosaurus versus a Ceratosaurus. And, you get to see your basic dinosaur clash. It's great. And what they did in the film is they built like a whole Stegosaurus for the child actors to climb around on, measure, to explore, to pick at. And these kids in the movie, like at that age that they're at in the movie and what the actors were, they're looking at this thing thinking like, this is awesome. This is a Stegosaurus. We get to climb on it. This is so cool. And you can see like that bubbly, fantastic, like happy energy in the child actors, because again, a lot of this stuff they got to touch, they got to see, they were involved in it. So it's a really fun film from that sense. So you get, it's really genuine acting. I really like it because it's fun. So like these are kids, and kind of like in the same vein as Home Alone, like they aren't helpless. Like these guys, like they know how to start a fire, they know how to pack, they know how to fish. So like that's how they're just going through it, and it kind of explains how they're getting along, like all the way up and down this river. Like at one point, it's just too wet for them to start a fire on the shore, so it's safer to stay in the boat. And while they're sleeping in the boat, they happen to notice that they're kind of surrounded by crocodiles. The crocodiles aren't going to get in the boat. I mean, that's not going to happen, but like they are kind of shooed away by a lantern that, like one of the kids has. So it's just like understanding like these are animals, be respectful of it. And, like we are getting along with what resources we have and we're making the best use of them. It's a really wholesome film, if I can just drive that point home. And because the 4K was released relatively recently, you can get it at a pretty great price. I think what I paid was £15 for mine, and it's worth every penny. Like Paul, your kids would love this. Alex's kids, Alex, I know you're still listening. Alex's kids would absolutely adore Journey to the Beginning of Time, and you can pick it up just about anywhere. It's on Amazon. It's at HMV. Like that's where I got mine. So yeah, definitely give it a look. But it's just a great dinosaur movie, and it doesn't aim to be a monster movie. It doesn't aim to be scary, but what it does aim is to be informative and a fun little adventure. Now, some of the dinosaur facts, some of the creature facts are incorrect. And we have dinosaurs from a long time ago, as far as pop culture is concerned, being portrayed as dinosaurs from a long time ago. So you're going to get some tail dragging dinosaurs, but looking at retrosaurs kind of like that, it is sort of fun as well to just see them portrayed that way. But there's a lot of like really great things in there, and a lot of really clever uses of animation, stop motion, and puppetry that they used to bring this film together. And I think it's really great. The animation itself, the stop motion, is remarkably smooth. There are some points where you have like an elephant with its trunk. That looks great. You have a couple of woolly rhinos, like charging each other on an opposite bank, and the kids are watching that and like, oh, wow, that's cool. It's just, they did it really well, and they're just natural scenes that you can like find parallels today of, but because it's ancient creatures, I fell in love with it as a kid, and my kids are falling in love with it. And despite its age, like some of the effects haven't aged very well. Some of the facts haven't aged very well. it's still staying really fun. It's one of those films that I want to take and get like my backyard projector up and like have my bonfire night and just watch it. It's really cool. It's just very wholesome. I can't say that it's a particularly long or crazy movie. I'm looking at the back of the Blu-ray case right now. It's 86 minutes long.
That's a good time.
Yeah, the special features are 40 minutes. The languages are Czech and English, subtitles English. It's just stereo.
And who's released it?
It's done by Second Run. So if you're looking at YouTube right there, I'm holding it up to my camera. That's kind of what the cover looks like there. It's pretty basic in terms of the packaging, but there you are. But for the longest time, you couldn't even find it on VHS. So it was a very limited run, but it is a definite find. And like I said, it's so wholesome. It's so wholesome.
So I take it you're plugging home that it's wholesome. The kids make it home safely again.
Yeah, the kids make it home safely, very safely. It's fantastic. One of the things that they have, like one of the biggest dramas in the book, is that they're writing a journal about all the landmarks and how to get home and everything along the river. And then
cool.
One of the boys drops it. And how are they going to get home? Well, it turns out one of the other boys is just kind of like, he's not necessarily like a troublemaker. He's kind of like the Paddington Bear of the group. You know, it's like he's not trying to do trouble. He's actually not asking for trouble. It just seems to find him. So anyways, he goes off like chasing a giant dragonfly or something like that. And he finds the journal again and they're able to get home. But they do manage to get back to the very beginning, like before, like as life was just starting on Earth, when it's just like amoebas and stuff like that. They do get to the end of the river and they come all the way back down. And it's really neat. It's really neat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Like I said, it's very enjoyable. It's very safe. It's a lot safer than I think anything else that we've talked about on this podcast.
Yes, that's it. It doesn't sound like there's any real threat at any point to the kids' lives.
Well, there are crocodiles.
Crocodiles come up to the boat.
There are giant terror birds that chase them. There's a leopard.
Okay.
There's a leopard in a branch above them. At one point, you see an anaconda sizing someone up. There's a saber-toothed tiger. The Ceratosaurus is on the opposite bank. But, you know, they are in an environment of relative danger there. There are the elements. But again, all of this is just portrayed as animals. And it is just a fun movie. It's not remarkably skewed in a direction of adventure or horror or special effects, although the special effects for their time, fantastic. Absolutely. I love the special effects in this film because they're using whatever they could to make it look realistic, which I have to commend them for that because the movie wasn't done on a huge budget. I don't have that to hand because I'm just telling you it's a wonderful film right now and I don't want to delve into the nitty gritty necessarily, but it wasn't done on a huge budget. It was done in conjunction with a museum. So you have an institution that did try and make it as good as it could have been, you know, for kids to watch, which was great in that sense. And it's just meant to be informative, but it gets away as an adventure, which is why I kind of love it. As the guy who's converting all of his old documentary VHSs to DVD. But yeah, I had a remarkable amount of fun with Journey to the Beginning of Time by Carl Zeman.
Sounds really nice.
When you guys look that up on Amazon, if you want to look it up, Carl Zeman is spelled Karel for his first name, and Zeman, Z or Z if you're British, EMAN. And like I said, it's Journey to the Beginning of Time. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Yeah, no worries. I love sharing stuff I find cool.
I know you do.
But
I was wondering what else you're going to find because if I imagine you've got a stack of VHS tapes, and a lot of them will probably have dinosaurs or something.
Well. Again, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I will hold up a VHS tape from my childhood. Pre-Hysteria by Moonbeam Entertainment. How cool is that? Fantastic. What else have we got? I have Midwich Entertainment Presents Prehistoric World. These were great. But yeah, there's lots of great stuff out there. And a lot of the things from our youth, which, you know, Paul and I would be identified as millennials. It's great, like entertainment. It's really fun stuff. And a lot of the stuff today, it's very cartoony, it's very stylized, try and make it cool. Whereas what the stuff that I grew up with, it didn't need to be cool. It was already cool from the beginning. And if you just treat it with that kind of reverence, you can have a lot more fun with it and, just enjoy it for what it is. It doesn't become over the top, which is why I like Journey to the Beginning of Time.
Nice. Okay. Right. Let's wrap this up. And,
yes.
If nothing else, do you have an if nothing else for us, Joe?
Well, if nothing else, I'm going to recommend Journey to the Beginning of Time, which I have already. But I'm going to go another step further. There is a fantastic book out there, which we have talked about before on the podcast, called Fragment. It is by an author named Warren Fay, and it is really great. It's about weed species. And if you don't know what a weed species is an organism which is very adaptable and can quickly take over an environment if it's introduced. So I want you to picture a perfectly manicured garden and then dandelions. Dandelions are the quintessential weed or weed species. So imagine that, only an island of dangerous creatures, which are like weed species. And that is kind of what Fragment is about. It's about an isolated island where things have been allowed to evolve in relative geostasis. The island hasn't changed north or south very much. It's stayed in pretty much the exact same spot. And it's been locked in this place. So organisms on it have been allowed a very stable environment to evolve, but it's become kind of like an arms race on this island. And then people stumble across this island after hundreds of millions of years of these creatures just becoming as dangerous as they can be. And that's where it gets interesting. And Fragment has the potential to surprise and delight a lot of people. So please give it a read. We are going to attempt to see if we can go further with that storyline. I think that could be another episode for us, Paul.
Yeah, I've read it. I loved it.
It's fantastic and it's readily available. Go for it. It also has a sequel called Pandemonium, which is also very good. Paul, nice. What would you recommend tonight?
Well, I guess I should recommend my film of Inanimate, or maybe The Thing. Or maybe actually watch The Thing remake, The Thing 2011, and then watch this, and then watch Inanimate and just see kind of what they were trying to do in one film and how they brought it into their own film. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of The Thing, and now that you've said that about the film, I'm definitely going to take a closer look at it. I don't necessarily if I'm going to rope people in to watch it with me, because The Thing requires a certain amount of...
It's not a family film. Absolutely.
No, it's not a family film. I was going to put, it's like you have to have a certain amount of tolerance for nausea and gore.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't think this was super gory.
I can't imagine it being.
Because I think because it was a Kickstarter film, it doesn't have a massive budget. So a lot of it is in the dark. And so you might not see as much gore.
Ooh, dark.
As you would like. I mean, you will see some people being eaten, you will see some disturbing things, but it's not going to be as bad as The Thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I am looking forward to watching it. I will try and do it before our next podcast episode.
Awesome.
If anybody out there sees Alex, let him know that we miss him terribly. Please come back from holiday soon. You're awesome. And folks, thank you so much for listening. And as always, keep it kaiju.